Welcome, and thanks for joining me for another Synology Solutions seminar. My name is Chris Alden, and I'm a part of the Synology America team. Today, we're going to be going over best practices in regards to business file server deployment. So let's dive in. When you're deploying a business file server, there are a few things that you're going to want to take into consideration. First, how are your users going to be accessing the server and their data? Second, we have to assess the environment your server will be in and what requirements that needs to hit. Third, how is your server going to integrate into this environment, and what tools are you going to need? Last, let's consider any IT self-services you may want to implement to lessen the workload on your IT administration. So first, we're going to discuss access types. Now, there are a multitude of ways to access a server. However, we'll be going over two of the most common. A map network drive will allow you to share files locally on your network and collaborate with other people. Now, this is ideal for office environments where files need to be accessed by many users. Synchronization will allow for your NAS to act as a cloud where you can access data from anywhere with an internet connection and then download these files for offline use. Let's actually take a quick look at both of these in action. Mapping a network drive is actually incredibly easy. I'll demonstrate that right now. Here we are in our standard Windows 10 environment, although you can do this for Mac and Linux as well. I'll click on our Windows Explorer here at the bottom, and then I'll go under this PC on the left side. This is where I can see network locations and attached devices. Up here at the top, I'll click on Map Network Drive. Now, I'll select which drive this will appear as. In this case, I'll leave it as Z. Here, I'll enter the IP address of my NAS and the folder I wish to access on it. In this case, Documents. Then I'll hit Finish. Now it'll ask me to log in with my credentials for the NAS. Now, as you can see, I'm connected to my Documents folder. Every single one of these files is on my NAS. I can see it here in the tree under this PC as well. Another way to do this and access my folders, or any folders on my NAS, would be to utilize Synology Drive. So here, on my desktop, I have this drive folder. Once I open this up, I can see my Documents folder as it is on my NAS. You'll also take notice of these green check marks. What these indicate is that all of the files are currently synchronized with my NAS. Having these files synchronized gives me the ability to make changes from anywhere with an internet connection, as well as roll back to previous versions that had been synchronized previously. In review, a map network drive is ideal for team folders in an office setting. All of the data is centralized. However, it is local network only, so there is no offline editing. With synchronization, multiple devices can sync to your NAS over the internet, allowing for offline editing and real-time versioning, like I just showed you. So, when should we consider which option? Well, ideally, you could actually combine these. You could utilize a map network drive for team folders and collaboration, anything that you could share in the office or have multiple teams working on. You could then use Synology Drive for home folders and other user-specific files for access off of that local network. Essentially anything you may want to bring with you and work on outside of the office. Next, let's talk about assessing your environment and how to choose a NAS for its requirements. First, let's figure out the number of bays we should be looking for. So to figure this out, let's start by thinking of the capacity that we're looking for. How many terabytes of storage do I need? Once I've got that estimated, I need to consider what RAID type I should use. Typically, for 6 bays and below, I would choose RAID 5. But for more than 6 bays, I would choose RAID 6, since more drives typically comes with a greater chance of disk failure, so more protection is always preferred. Now that we've decided capacity and RAID type, we've almost figured out how many bays we need. However, let's say our target is 24 terabytes usable. There are a ton of ways to do this, as we could utilize 7 4-terabyte drives or even 3 12-terabyte drives, and several options in between. So, we'll have to consider disk performance. For example, let's say that a single disk's performance is around 100 megabytes a second. If we were to utilize 4 disks, now our performance is sitting around 400 megabytes a second. And if we put that in a RAID 5, we'd see around 300 megabytes a second. More disks typically correlates to higher performance speeds, so take that into account when you're building this out. A second item to consider is how many users will be accessing your NAS. To determine the performance per user and the bandwidth that you'll need, we can use a simple calculation. Let's divide the performance number by the amount of users and you'll get a rough performance that each user will experience. So for instance, let's start with a connection speed of 125 megabytes a second. 125 megabytes a second divided by 20 users means each user will experience about 6.25 megabytes a second. Add more users, and that number starts to go down. So, how can we increase these network speeds? Well, let's think about increasing your network bandwidth. You can utilize either link aggregation or a 10 gig connection. Figuring out your bandwidth requirements will help dictate which units you're going to be considering. It's also good to keep in mind that the more users you have, the more RAM you're going to need. However, how much RAM you'll need is also dictated on what applications you'll be running, so we'll cover that in a moment. Now that we know how many bays we need, the performance requirement, and how many LAN ports we're looking at, let's consider what file types are going to be at play here. File types affect performance. For instance, is your server hosting small files such as documents or PDFs? Or are you going to be moving larger files such as uncompressed video or raw photos? Smaller files will typically require a higher end CPU. Also, having multiple concurrent users accessing these folders and files creates random access, which again will change what NAS you'll be considering, as you'll need something with high performance and more RAM expandability. You can also look into running an SSD cache, or going with an all-flash solution. With an SSD cache, you can create a small amount of hot data for better random access. However, you could always consider an all-flash solution for the best random access across all of your data, especially useful if the server will primarily be a virtual machine host. Last on our list, let's consider which applications your NAS will be running. Will this be used as virtual machine storage, a company mail server, or a private cloud? There's tons of use cases, so consider if yours requires higher random access or high-performing CPU. Are you going to have any specific encryption needs? You can encrypt and protect your data every step of the way, in rest and in transit, but this can be a CPU-intensive process. Will you be utilizing any platform-dependent technologies, such as Synology High Availability or BTRFS snapshots? All of these options will dictate the class of unit that you'll be looking to purchase. If you're looking to implement all of these, you may want to consider a higher functioning unit. Now, Synology offers a wide range of products to suit all of your needs. For business file servers, we often see our Value series, our Plus series, and our XS and XS Plus series. Essentially, if you're a small office with a small team of a dozen people that need a data server, a larger company with 100 employees accessing and storing files, or a global company with virtual machines and massive storage needs, we've got you covered. Now, let's discuss how easy it is to integrate your file server into your business environment. We're going to talk about how to join a Windows domain or create your own, how to install software on hundreds to thousands of PCs, and some helpful configuration tips to keep that data secure. So first, let's talk about Active Directory. Your server will seamlessly integrate into your Microsoft Active Directory. However, if you do wish to step away from Windows Server and its $50 per user licensing fees, we offer Synology Active Directory. Now, this is a robust solution that allows you to automatically map the network drive, deploy software to all users on your domain, and manage group policies via RSAT, all without any licensing or any additional fees. Let's take a look at this. So here we are back in DSM, and I wanted to quickly show you how easy it is to connect a user to your domain and how to automatically map network drive upon their initial login. I want to start with going up here to the upper left-hand corner and clicking on the main menu, and then click on the Active Directory Server application. Now again, this is first-party software that is available for free on our package center. Now, as you can see here, I've already created a domain for the purpose of this demonstration, and what we want to do is add a user to it. So I'll scroll over here to Users and Computers and click on that tab. Here I can see all of the users and groups on my domain currently, and here under User, I'll click Add up at the top, then click on User. You can also add groups this way as well. So now we'll enter our user's login name. I'll choose Chris. I can enter a description and an email, but I'm just going to enter a strong password. You can change a few rules here as well too, but I'll keep it simple and go on to the next page. Now here you can see all of the groups that my user has the potential to join. I'll just scroll down and he's just going to join the all domain users group automatically, and I'll leave it at that. Click Next, and then you can review everything you just went over and then apply. So now what we're going to do is extend this naming field scroll down and find Chris. I'll click on Chris, and then I'll go up to Action and Edit. Now in this menu I can change anything I want about his account, but what I want to do is click on the Profile tab and then add a login script. So here I'll upload the login script that I've created. Here I've written a really simple map network drive script, so I'll click on that and then hit Open. Just so we're on the same page, I'll show you what the script looks like. As you can see here, it's one simple line of code, and it just shows the address of my server, the folder I want the user to access, and how it will appear to the user. In this case, it'll appear as an S drive. After I've done that, I'll simply click OK. Now, the last step of this process is I have to make sure that Chris has access to that documents folder I'm trying to map him to. So I'll click out of this, and then I'll go over to my control panel. In my control panel, I'll click on Shared Folder. Now here I can see the Documents folder. I'll click on that, and I'll go up to the top and click Edit. Here I can change all of the rules about this folder, but what I want to do is go to Permissions. Now here, we see there's only admin and guest. But where it says local users, I actually want to click this drop-down menu and scroll down to domain users. Now here, if I extend this naming field out, I can see Chris is right here, and I can give him read and write access. I'll click OK, and now let's hop into our virtual machine and check how we did. Now here we are logging into our virtual machine for the very first time. So I'll enter Chris's name and then his password, and I'll log in. Now, since this is the very first time we're logging into this virtual machine, Windows has to set up. So let's fast forward a bit and I'll talk to you in a second. Perfect. So first things first, I'll open up my Windows Explorer here and click on this PC. Now, as soon as I do this, you can see that the Documents folder was automatically mapped and I have access to everything inside of it. Nice and easy. Let's go back to the presentation. Now, let's move on to our security checklist, as protecting your data is incredibly important and often overlooked. First, on the system security level, we suggest that you subscribe to Synology e-News. Now, this is a free bulletin with the latest information on security patches and protocol to make sure that you're doing all you can to protect your data. You can subscribe upon initially setting up your unit, or at any point later on by simply logging in to your Synology account and opting in. You should set up system notifications right away to keep on top of any and all changes in your server, from suspicious login attempts to a defunct fan that might need replacement. You can always set up a UPS to prevent data loss in case of any unforeseen power failures. You should also consider scheduling smart testing. Now, this will scan all of the disks on your NAS and search for any potential problems before they even occur. Next, on the network security level, you can enable your NAS to automatically block any IP for too many failed login attempts, which is especially useful to protect yourself from bot attacks trying to access your servers. You can utilize our Let's Encrypt service to provide you with a free SSL certificate. You can also encrypt all of your network traffic by utilizing HTTPS only. Using all of these in tandem is highly recommended. On the user security level, you can enable a file transfer log to keep track of every file movement on your system for future auditing. You should implement strong password rules and two-step authentication to make sure that all logins are secure. You can also enable and tailor the security advisor to scan your NAS for any weak user password configurations, all to rules that you set in place. Lastly, you should definitely utilize antivirus software, such as our Antivirus Essential or McAfee Antivirus. Now let's talk on central management. So let's say that you have anywhere from a couple dozen NAS units spread between some local offices to a couple hundred or thousand spread across the entire globe. Instead of visiting each location or entrusting each one of these to a local admin, you may want to implement our central management system. Now, this will allow you to manage a multitude of servers from one host, enabling centralized monitoring of all of those units and their logs, mass configuration, system notifications, updates, and software deployments throughout your whole organization. Now finally, let's consider some IT self-service policies that we could put into effect. A lot of IT teams are stretched thin as it is, so allowing for some of these daily requests from users to be handled by the users can alleviate a lot of these issues and a lot of unnecessary work. First, let's consider allowing users to reset their passwords on their own and recover files without having an admin step in, utilizing either a simple recycle bin or snapshots of the files to be rolled back to. Next, you could allow for file sharing and file uploads with third parties without having to give them direct access to your NAS by providing them with a login, or moving files to a third-party service or an external drive. Let's start with the password recovery via email setup that we just discussed. First, we'll open up our control panel again, and then we'll go to User. Up at the top, we'll click on the Advanced tab. And it's actually the very first option available. Allow non-administrator users to reset forgotten passwords via email. You can also apply a series of password strength rules, including numeric characters, special characters, or even excluding common, easily guessed passwords. If I scroll down, I can enable password expiration to make sure that passwords are only valid for a certain duration. Additionally, we can enable two-step verification to make sure that our users and their data are as safe as possible. Next, let's talk about file recovery. Let's set up a simple recycle bin on our share folder so that anyone connected to it as a map network drive can easily recover files that they may have accidentally deleted. We'll go to the control panel again, but this time we'll click on Shared Folder. Now, we were utilizing our Documents folder, so I'll click on that and then go up to the top and click Edit. Here on the first tab, the General tab, I can see at the bottom the option to enable Recycle Bin. I can also restrict the access to administrators only, or even set up a schedule to automatically empty the recycle bin at any days of my choosing. I'll enable the recycle bin and then click OK. Now let's open up our map network drive through the Windows Explorer and take a look at this in action. Let's say that somebody accidentally deleted our inventory sheet. Well, no worries. Now I can just quickly access the recycle bin and see that it's right here. Now all I have to do is cut and paste it right back into the directory that it belongs in. No problem. Let's say, however, that somebody went inside the inventory sheet and deleted everything, then overwrote the file, leaving us with nothing. How can we recover from this? Well, let's take a quick look at Snapshot. Utilizing our free Snapshot replication package, we can easily recover any files that may have accidentally been overwritten or deleted. Here, we'll go up to our main menu, and we'll click on the Snapshot Replication application. Once this is opened up, I can see all of my scheduled snapshots. And if I go over to the left side where it says Snapshots, this is where I can create them for any of my shared folders. Now here under Snapshots, I'll click on the Documents folder, and then I'll click on Settings. Now here I can enable a snapshot schedule. Now let's say that I want to have this set to every day, every 5 minutes. All of the controls are pretty granular. Right now, I'll set it to every 15 minutes. I can also enable a retention policy. I can specify the number of snapshots I wish to retain, I can always retain them, or I can retain the snapshots with any policy that I want to dictate. I'll enable it to always retain the snapshots, and then I'll hit OK. So now we can see that our Documents folder is scheduled to have snapshots taken every 15 minutes. I'll exit out, and we'll go take a look at this. Now, I'll open up the folder here, and let's say that somebody goes into the inventory, opens it up, and then promptly selects all and deletes everything. After they deleted everything, they went up to File and they saved. Now this file is completely overwritten and we've lost all of that data. Or have we? What we can do now that snapshots are enabled is roll back to any of those previous snapshots and recover that file. So I can right-click on Inventory and I can go down to Restore Previous Versions. Now here, I can see that I actually took a snapshot last week. Now I can open this up, and I can see that all of my data is safe and secure. I also have the option to restore this directly into place. So I'll click on that, hit Restore, and it'll notify me that this has successfully been restored. Now, whenever I open this file, I'll see that it's back the way it was, completely in order. Lastly, let me show you how to share, send, and receive files with a third party without having to give them direct access or a login to your NAS. Here, we'll go to our file station. Now let's say we have to share our inventory with somebody outside of the office. What I can do is right-click Inventory and then scroll down to the bottom of this menu and click on Share. Now here, I'm given a shared link. What I can do is highlight this link and then copy it and actually just send it over. Now when somebody clicks on this link that I send them, they're greeted with this, a simple page that just has a download button to the sheet that I gave them access to. It works much the same with receiving files as well. So let's say that we need somebody to submit something to our accounting folder. Now what I can do is I right-click on our accounting folder, and then I scroll down to the bottom and I click Create File Request. Now here it works exactly the same. I'm given a link, and then I'm given a name, and I can write a simple message and even enable password protection so that the person has to enter a password that I gave them before they can upload anything to my NAS. When they're given this link, they're greeted with this page, a simple upload portal that they can write their name and then put their file in, and it will appear in the file dictated on my NAS. It's really that simple. So, in conclusion, when you're deploying a business file server, you need to consider how your users are accessing this data, what environment you're deploying into and its particular requirements, how you'll be integrating into that environment, and lastly, like I just showed you, any IT self-service rules that you believe fit in with your particular use case. Thank you very much for watching. If you have any particular questions about what we just went over, please head over to Synology.com to learn more or contact us through the website. Thank you very much and have a great day.